It won't stop. There it is. I found it. Hey guys. So here's the idea. We've actually seen a few suggestions on how to make a car quicker using this sort of propeller. It'll provide the car with some thrust, and in theory at least, make the car quicker to accelerate. But let's see how we can actually get this to work in practice. We'll have a pulley right here. The belts will be routed upwards, so we need to cut out a window. We've got the spliny bit for the clutch disc, a second pulley. Weld all of that together, and this will transfer the rotational action. We'll fit a gearbox for a Latam. It'll allow us to manage the rotational speed of the propeller, either increasing or reducing the thrust. Check this out, guys. This is the setup that we've come up with. After a lot of thought and deliberation, we've ultimately decided to fit a pulley before the differential. So in other words, there's a pulley wedged in between the propeller shaft and the differential. From there you have a couple of belts, connecting it to a second pulley mounted on the input shaft of this here lovely manual transmission. From there we have a propeller shaft, which is going to terminate at the, at the propeller itself. The big benefit of this gearbox is that it's a manual, and so we're going to be able to change its gears. Use first or second to get it to rotate faster, third or maybe even fourth. The point is, we're going to be able to adjust the propeller's speed. That's the really interesting thing about all of this. Torque to the system will be transferred, via this drive line with the pulleys, and so there's the system. As far as we can tell, we've made it as simple and reliable as we possibly could. Okay, so we're at the proving grounds, everything is looking good, the weather is nice. As a matter of fact, we've been in a heat wave for quite a while now. And here's the idea. Overall, the system hasn't been subject to any major changes. You still have the pulleys, the belts, the gearbox. But on top of all of that, we've added this frame, a shaft, and the propeller itself, of course. The propeller is oriented in such a way as to push forward, and so here's what I suggest we do. The aim is to work out how much it's going to help us with the acceleration, so I'll make my way to the starting line, and from there we're going to do a baseline run, from 0 to 60 kilometers an hour, using a race logic device to measure the time. So we're starting with a propeller that's not producing any thrust, and then we'll go through the gears. The gearbox is actually in a really good spot. Once we start using it, we're going to throw it into first, meaning that it won't be helping us out too much. Then we're going to use second, then third, then fourth, and work out which is the optimal rotational speed in terms of extra thrust. Okay, I'm at the line. Reset the device, propeller is off. And here we go. Whoa there, slow down now. And we've come to a stop. 0 to 60 kilometers an hour. Well, it took a while, a good 9.2 seconds. Now it's back to the line, and what are we gonna do? Bring that windy supercharger into the mix, of course. Leave the gearbox in first for now, for just a bit of extra thrust. Replay. Now, you would have noticed that the car was bucking and jumping around. The reason for that being we had to weld the rear suspension to the body to prevent it from moving around, to ensure that it maintains the same position at all times. After all, we are running a belt drive, And if the axle were to move around, the tension would be all over the place. Or they would have just been falling off altogether. And so we've decided to hard mount everything, to prevent any funny business with the belts, to make sure the tension doesn't fluctuate. Okay, now I go put the transmission into gear and engage the thruster. So that's first gear, the propeller will be spinning at minimum speed. We're hoping it'll be of at least some use, but let's find out. Let's get to it. Propeller engaged. First gear, here we go. It is taking longer for it to slow down, that's for sure. The acceleration took 10 seconds. That thing isn't helping. So far, it's only holding the car back. Okay, then. So it didn't help in first. I'm guessing that second, third, it might even take using fourth for it to do something. I'm sure it will. Right. Terrific. I have put that box into second gear, and that should get the propeller to rotate at considerably higher speed, meaning we'll have more thrust pushing the car forward. Let's see how well this works then. Okay, are we ready? Let's go, second gear. I can definitely feel it. I can feel it with my back that something is happening back there. So it is producing thrust. As for the time, once again it has increased slightly. We are looking at 10.2 seconds. That's not good. It would seem as if this isn't helping us out all that much. But let's bring the revs up even higher by putting this gearbox into third. And here we go. Holy cow. Okay, so the time has increased even more. Why isn't this effective? But let's try fixing that by putting the transmission into... Yeah, that is fourth gear. This will bring the propeller up to top speed and give us maximum thrust. But let's see how this actually goes down. Okay, so we've got everything up and running. Yeah, this will bring the propeller up to maximum speed. And with that, here we go. Come on now. Nope. You know what the funny thing is? What's funny is that I couldn't even get up to 60 kilometers an hour. Isn't that something? 54 kilometers an hour was the highest I could get it up to. The car is barely accelerating. We'd better try this one more time. Come on now. Damn it. The belts are getting roasted. The tensioner has broken off, but okay. I was only able to get it up to 58.6. I was so close. It felt to me like I wouldn't even be able to stop. I mean, this thing was pushing me hard. Well, yeah, that's what I was aiming for. How am I supposed to accelerate? I should definitely be able to get up to 60. I mean, I was almost there. Okay, here we go. Come on. Nope, still don't have enough space. 59.6, I was just the tiniest bit off. I can't tell what's burning, whether it's the clutch, the belts. I think it's the clutch. But I also feel belt because there is some slip when I set off. The propeller is immediately set into motion. We are ready, and here we go. Here we go. Stop. It won't stop. Stop, I say. Isn't that something? Yeah, well, such results were to be expected. Everything in here is burning. The clutch and a bunch of other stuff. The acceleration time went all the way up to 19 seconds, and that is just ridiculous. And that's with thrust? So this propeller of ours increased the acceleration time by a good 10 seconds. So instead of assisting the car, it's actually holding it back. But then that's actually quite easy to explain. You see, the thing with air is that it doesn't create any real resistance, say, when you're waving your hand. But if you want to get this sort of propeller to rotate, that's actually going to take quite a lot of power. In order to get it to rotate at the speed at which it should, I'm afraid that even a 300 horsepower engine wouldn't quite be enough. Then you also have the additional transmission, the belts, the propeller itself. All of that is going to suck power away from the engine. And so much of it, as a matter of fact, that instead of being useful, it's actually a liability. And of course, the faster this was spinning, the more trouble the engine was having. And with fourth gear being a 1-to-1, that's when it was in really big trouble. And the other nifty thing was that when you go for the brakes, the car refuses to slow down. That in turn tells us that the propeller is indeed producing some thrust. And quite a bit of it, actually. Okay, so here's what I suggest we try now. This should prevent the car from accelerating, but not necessarily just by means of pulling power from the engine. I mean with the actual airflow. We can put the gearbox into reverse and check to see... I mean, with it rotating the other way, granted the shape of the blades might be a limiting factor, but I do think we should try reverse to see how the car accelerates in that sort of configuration. Will I even be able to get up to 60 Ks? Well, let's give it a try. Put the gearbox into reverse and see how the car accelerates. Let's go. Hold up. Whoa there. No, this seems to be more effective than the 1-to-1 fourth gear. The acceleration, well, we had enough room at least, even if barely. I came to a stop at the very end, but the time was 15 seconds. Indeed, oh wow.
Вот тебе и ого. Но это в любом
It's
случае,
still slower than when we were using first gear, though.
когда была включена первая передача.
Even though it's about the same in terms of load. But why is it slower?
Почему медленнее?
Could it be the resistance?
Он сопротивляется.
The airflow actually doing something.
Делает свое дело.
So at the end of the day, it's creating thrust and resistance. When we were using first gear, I saw 10 seconds, but this time we could only get to 60 after 15 seconds. So the thrust is affecting the car's performance. But then, even though we don't feel the air, it creates a lot of resistance. And so those are the results. You guys saw it all for yourselves. That's it for this video. Make sure to sub, and catch you guys later.
Пока.